gentlemen, it is an awesome time to be a Star Wars fan.
Yes, sir.
And it's always an awesome time to be a Star Wars fan.
You're right, Nate.
When Fandom Acts.
This is true, but even more so this week.
Yeah, I can't wait for Andor tomorrow.
Yes,
3-episode release.
If we get to watch it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. It is exciting, but I wasn't actually talking about Andor. Oh. I was talking about what the fans did this past Saturday at Podathon.
Yes. That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just
Really,
crazy.
It was. I mean, we'll give you the amazing total raise for Make-A-Wish along with your chance to hear an extended version of our interview with Christopher Sean next. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to it.
Sherlock Holmes. When that comes out, very, very excited. What were we talking about?
Andor.
talking about
I
that,
know.
yeah.
It's all your fault that we
Yes.
can't go
I'm
watch it on Wednesday.
Who enjoys shopping at Lowe's?
I'm like an officer and president of the launch club. That
Send
we got to
one
go
of your
buy
lackeys, then.
equipment to build a rocket to go to 10,000 feet. I'm sorry.
So if you exactly right, Biggie
Exactly.
Nate.
If you're an officer,
if
send
you're
a
the
lackey.
officer and the president, you send a lackey to go do that stuff.
We're the
And
only
you
people who
watch
get
Andor.
anything
You
done.
think Joe Biden is sending people to Lowe's to get him stuff?
No, I don't think he could get to Lowe's.
Oh no, that's terrible. All right, we better move on. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature, and to be endorsed by the writer-director of The Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, and that there is a story that is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story, and that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Lord of the Rings.
Finally. Yes, sir.
We actually love Rings of Power, and we are not ashamed to say so.
And we're not
Facebook.
shills.
Amen.
That's right.
We're not shills.
We talk about lots of other. No, we're not shills, even though we've been accused of it about 4,000 times.
It's honestly like a badge of honor, I think.
At this point. Anyway, that's what we talk about. Anyway, I'm David. I'm the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. BB Nate, what have you got going this week?
I really just cannot wait for Gotham Knights. It looks so good.
Really?
So
Are you
much
going to
fun.
help us understand why?
I am.
And it's got a Christopher Sean connection.
It does.
Yes,
I can't wait to talk
That's
about
gonna
that.
be a DC day.
It is going to be a DC day. And then Samuel the Hutt.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Move over, Legolas and Gimli.
What?
There's a new duo in town. No, I'm kidding. They're still great. I'm kidding.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But so is this new group.
Yeah.
With that, that's
Dad?
awesome. Yeah. Christopher Sean, we landed
sir.
that interview. We got to have it, and we have an extended version that wasn't with additional content that was not included.
Bonus.
at
So-
Podathon.
Why didn't we wait like 5 months to release this like Spider-Man No Way Home did?
Oh yeah, we
5
could,
minutes.
we could have done Podathon, the more fun stuff version.
Yeah.
Because Alden Diaz has an extended
Really?
content.
Yeah.
As Father and Sons with Andor.
We could've just
group,
done
they
that.
have extended content.
Dang.
So we should have done that.
You're right.
We should
That's a
raise
good
another
point, Nate.
$20,000 or something. Well,
Never mind. We're canceling this
We'll
episode.
talk about how
We're
much
gonna
we
wait.
Before we do that, I want to thank you guys for listening to the show. You guys
Thank
are
you.
awesome. We do, and especially those of you that are going to still listen after Sam's comment earlier. Thank you for listening to the show. We do appreciate that. Please follow the show on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. That could be Apple. That could be Spotify. That could be whatever. There's literally about 200 of them.
I know, it's
in the
crazy.
app stores. Find one, follow us. That way you get updated every
Or
week.
do it on all 200 if you're really that dedicated.
Like we did at Best Buy that one time where we went
that
to
was
all
great.
those and followed us on all of them. Yeah.
Pretty sure they unfollowed.
Desperate
it.
times call for desperate measures.
We were very new at that time. Update on Podathon. The goal was 10,000.
Yeah.
That was 1,400 higher than what last year's total was.
Total, not even the goal. Last year's total.
Last year's total was
Goal.
3,000, I think. 2,000
The
or
goal was
3,000.
3,000.
We hit 8,600
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
This year we were like, We're going to shoot for the moon here. Go for 10,000.
10K.
We got amazing things happened. The cast of Andor came on. We got that booked at the last minute with As Father and Son, which was amazing. Of course, Seth Green was on there, and his is an extended version. That's on Scotty's this week as well. On the Bomb Backcast. So many amazing guests, so
Ryan
many
Johnson.
amazing things. But then Ryan Johnson was on there, and we thought, man, we're going to do this. And so pull back the curtain. We were the opening show.
Mm-hmm. We were.
It was awesome. We had a great time, and then we finished up some things. Sam, you worked on some stuff for some NASA stuff you were working on. Mm-hmm. And then we hit the road and drove an hour and a half to get to Gulfport, Mississippi, and let you guys take over Podathon for us because it's Batman Day.
It is.
And we wanted to watch
83 years of Batman.
Yeah, Mask of the Phantasm, and then Batman 89, and Batman Returns. Before we talk about Podathon, Sam, your first time seeing Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Real quick, 30 seconds, describe what that experience is like.
Y'all kept saying it's weird. It starts off weird and gets weirder. I'm like, is it really? Like, they're playing it up. No, it is really, really weird. And I know tons of people really like it and think it's the best.
A lot
Batman,
of you like it. You
and
said
that's
it.
great. I'm happy for you. I don't get it. I bust out laughing so many times just at how absurd
it feels like a fever dream.
Yes.
It was bizarre.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
So we're sitting there in the movie theater between these movies, and I keep and actually during the movie, because I'm a bad moviegoer, but there wasn't hardly anybody around us. So nobody behind us, right?
No.
Okay, so and the people in front of us were like 3 or 4 rows down.
Right.
And so we weren't really disturbing anybody, right? Except for the guys right in front of us. That's right. That was an interesting experience. But anyway, so I'm pulling out my phone. I'm refreshing our Podathon total. I'm ready.
And by the way, there's no signal at this movie theater.
Oh, no, it's terrible.
Enough.
So it refreshed, and it was like 93, 95. And I'm like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We've got like an hour left in the Podathon. It's going to happen. And we clear the 10,000. And I'm like super excited. I'm like showing the boys in the middle of the theater. I'm like,
we're all
I'm all excited about it. And then everything gets done. And when credits are starting to roll on Batman Returns, I hit refresh again. And it's 15,100.
Crazy.
It blew it. And the total at this point is $16,662.
Wow. That's incredible.
Over $6,000 more raised at Podathon because you, Star Wars fans, are not what your stereotype is. You're awesome people. Yep. You love Star Wars. You love kids. You love people. You came together, and we are super proud.
This basically the 5th highest fundraiser for Make-A-Wish of all
this
time?
This year.
That's crazy. We've doubled what we did for last Podathon.
Impressive.
Absolutely.
That's
impressive.
We're already talking 2023 Podathon. Those conversations are already starting to happen, and the planning is getting into that. So who knows? I mean, maybe we get Dave Filoni on it this time.
I mean, maybe.
We could die happy.
We would stop the podcast. That's what we've said from the beginning.
If
we do
we
that
ever get
interview,
Dave
we
Filoni.
shut down the podcast afterwards.
We peaked.
We're done. All right. Maybe not. But
Hang up our hats.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yep. But enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for being a part of that, by the way.
Thank you.
Enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're talking about. Let's go, BB
Well,
Nate.
since we had the amazing Christopher Sean on this week, I thought I should expand more on Gotham Knights and what we can expect from the game.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Batman has no limits.
Along with the Gotham Knights game, the same day. This is a very big DC day.
Okay.
We have Black Adam coming out.
The day that comes
Same
out?
day. And we have the Gotham Knights prequel comic coming out the same day as well.
Oh, there's a
The Batman's last mission is
that leads into Gotham Knights.
Gilded City.
Is it just like one issue that
No,
leads
it's
up? Or is
5.
it going to be okay? Interesting.
And so it's the first issue or the last
The first issue.
Wow.
And so that's gonna
Very
be
exciting.
another Batman day or DC day.
And might as well, right?
Yeah, might as well. Yes.
Well, we could do another Podathon. We could do a Podathon more fun stuff version.
We could, yeah. Just combine all of them together.
That's right, and raise 25,000.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, it could happen.
Well, that'd be great.
Let's just get into Gotham Knights and let's talk about the behind the scenes stuff first. The first thing I want to touch on is the studio behind Gotham Knights is no stranger to Batman and the backlash a community can give. They did the prequel game to the Arkham series, Arkham Origins, which was received with very mixed reviews. Let's just say that kindly. Personally, it's my second favorite Arkham game.
Really?
And I was very excited to hear that they were heading up this game.
But some people were concerned about it, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good way of saying it. Sam, this game is already getting some very negative comments. It was getting very negative at the first trailer against it due to it looking too much like the failed Avengers game that came out. Do you think these concerns are warranted after what you've seen?
I mean, I can understand why people will be concerned because the Avengers game had a lot of potential and it didn't live up to it. From what I've heard and seen, it looks like they've really made a lot of good changes in this game over the past few months from those initial responses. And now it's not, it's not the same look as like the Arkham games. No. It's a little bit more stylized, I guess is the best way to put it, but it doesn't look like Avengers. It looks super good. It's very fluid, well put together gameplay. A little bit more arcadey than what you're used to, but not bad. I think I can understand why people would be concerned, but I don't think they're warranted at the state that the game is right now.
Yeah. Dad, should fans be judging this game so soon?
Well, one of the problems with fandom is we judge things before they come out all the time. That happened with Rings of Power. It happens. It's happening already to some extent with Andor. People are making judgments about these things beforehand. So our perspective is it's a lot easier to be a fan when you go into things that you're excited about them.
Yeah.
And so we choose to do that. Having said that, if there's reasons behind concerns, I don't have a problem with fans having those concerns. I just think that they need to go into it with a little bit more of an open mind, hoping to enjoy it versus expecting not to. You can't not have the MJ approach towards fandom. If you expect it to go wrong, you never
expect
get
disappointment, and you'll never
expect
be
disappointed. You'll never be disappointed. That is like the mantra of fandom.
At
this point, I would say I expect to be thrilled, and I go into things wanting that to happen, and so that's what I encourage you guys to do with this game.
Let's talk about the voice cast now. We have the great Christopher Sean, Nightwing, America Young as Batgirl, Stephen
Young, yeah.
As Red Hood, and Sloane Morgan Siegel as Robin / Tim Drake.
That's a cool name.
Sammy, you might actually know Stephen Oyoung before. He played Martin Lee, Mr. Negative in Spider-Man PS4 game, and that was his big thing, and so he's now Red Hood. So
that's
from
cool.
the trailers that y'all have seen, what do y'all think of this voice cast?
I think it's good. I actually, after our Christopher Sean interview, which you'll hear a bit, he talked about a video on his Instagram, right? So I went out and searched that out and watched it, and it was cool to be able to see the whole cast, both in mocap and then their characters in game. But the chemistry and the interactions all work really well, it feels like, just from what little I've seen. I think they picked a really great cast to portray these characters, and it's different, I feel like, than normal voice acting or even regular acting, because they do have the voice aspect that they really have to focus on, but then they're still, in a way, physically portraying the characters too. So it's impressive to see that these actors are able to pull all of that off and work together well as a team when there's no sets either. Like, they're not seeing anything around the world around them too.
Yeah, which is really interesting, because that was like one of the criticisms that the actors in the prequel trilogy said about filming episodes 1, 2, and 3 was it's hard to do it in that. But now we've gotten, we have to remember that was 20 plus years ago when that was the first time that you would ever really seen that. And so now these voice actors, Christopher Sean and others, they're used to doing these types of things, and they're used to acting in this type of manner. And so I'm excited about it. I don't really know these other actors, but what I've seen of the trailers and what I've seen of like the gameplay stuff, it looks fun. The story seems really interesting. That's one of the things that Christopher really emphasizes is the unique elements of the story. You're going to want to tune into that, because he talks a lot about this game at the end of that interview, some things that we didn't get to include in Podathon. So check that out.
Yes. Let's move on to what you were just talking about, the gameplay. So the main point of this is, In this game, you choose your own hero after Batman dies. You can play any of one of the 4 heroes at any point in the game. So you might play Nightwing for a little bit and be like, I want to switch to Batgirl or something like that. You can do that. Wow. And the goal is that by the end of the game and the story, you will find the hero you like the most, and you level them up so that they will become the new Gotham Knight of Gotham. And that choice will affect the story by the end.
So there's 4 endings?
So it's like a choose your own adventure story.
Yeah. So the one Gotham Knight will rise up by the end of the game by judging on how you do it. So Sam,
and when does this thing come out?
October 21st.
Do they have like a junior version that I can play that I won't like?
There'll be difficulty levels.
So I can just play the story?
Yeah, there's usually most of these games have a mode where it's called story mode, where it's like
that's all I care
super
about.
easy.
So Sam, since you play games quite frequently, what do you think of this system, the RPG elements?
I love that. You know, that was one of the things, like, hearing that there was this cast of characters, right? I'm like, well, first off, they're all very unique in the way they play, which is awesome. I like that. You're not just like a reskin of the different characters.
Not at
they're
all.
very different. So I was worried that you were going to kind of be like forced to pick one and stick with it throughout the game, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun to me. I like being able to switch it off a bit, but like you said, I'm certain there's going to be that one character that you're like, yeah, this fits my playstyle just right. And I think it's cool that they become the Gotham Knight, because throughout playing that game, you're going to kind of, in a way, get connected with that character, right? So seeing them be elevated into this new Gotham Knight's going to feel
like you're trying to encourage. You're like trying yourself to be elevated to that level.
So I love that concept, and I like that it's got a replayability factor to it, because you're like, okay, that was fun. I'm going to go back and do it as Red Hood this time and see what that ending looks like and stuff. So I love that system. I think that's great.
And there are certain cutscenes that happen with characters that you don't get with the other ones, just judging by these characters and their interactions.
So it's almost like a completely new experience every time you play.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, you might see an interaction with Nightwing and Bruce's grave and all that, and him talking to it and all that. They say that this story is super emotional.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the idea of like, it does feel like a choose your own adventure type story, which I think is so cool.
Yes.
With that, yeah.
Next, let's talk about the co-op in this game, because it's some of the most interesting online co-op I've seen in a while. They wanted it to feel like you could actually be a part of the team of knights. So you could join your friend's world in Gotham, and you could actually never meet up with them during the gameplay. This is the main part of this co-op, completely untethered. But also, you could be in the middle of stopping a crime, and then your friend shows up as Red Hood by taking down an enemy that was about to hit you. Like you were actually 2 heroes in Gotham.
Wow.
So, Sam, you've played a good amount of co-op games with Tristan and all that. What do you think about this approach to co-op?
I think this is a great approach to co-op. My friend and I, Tristan, we pretty much exclusively play co-op games. So hearing that this is the case, I think we're going to probably end up wanting to play this together. But it's such a unique concept. So many co-op games force you to work together side by side throughout the whole time, which isn't a problem, because that's for the most part what you're going into a co-op game wanting. But the fact that you could just never see each other, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, there you are. You know, I didn't expect you to be there, is great. I mean, my friend and I were playing a mission the other day, and I was taking down some enemies, and I was kind of losing a little bit of control. And then all of a sudden I see a shot from my friend whiz across the screen. I'm like, oh, there you are. And it felt super cool. So that idea that like you could be taking out some thugs, and then all of a sudden your friend swoops in to help save the day, just sounds like a cinematic, like you're playing a movie. So I love that.
And it
idea.
also sounds to me like you could be going through two different stories as these different characters in a co-op that happen to converge at a specific moment, and then you get to work together for a bit, and then go back on some additional stories and stuff like that, which is the way these comics and the way these movies and stuff happen.
It's impressive how they did this, and they really wanted it to seem like, I mean, they've made the biggest Gotham map in any Batman game
that's crazy
to date. It's huge, and they said it was going to be difficult to do the untethered, just judging by how large it is, but they said that helps because you can be taking down 2 crimes at the same time, like they would actually do in the game,
right?
Divide and conquer.
The weird thing is you can only do up to 2. You can't do all 4
that's
players
wild.
at the same time.
Maybe they can do an update
maybe at some point they will, but it's just
probably due to story reasons too. I have a feeling.
Exactly. I don't know, somewhere I read you could play the same character, but that would be a little weird.
Multiverse, different Earths.
Exactly. The gameplay seems amazing. But let's move on to probably the most exciting part, the story. Batman is dead. The whole
that's
left by
one way-
that loss.
That's a way to start it off.
Right. The whole left by that loss is swallowing Gotham. Everyone is starting to blame the Gotham Knights. The police are blaming Nightwing and all of them
for not being able to keep
the
crime under
citizens as
control.
well. Yes, and crime starts to become more frequent. And there are now whispers of a secret organization that has been pulling Gotham's strings from the start. The Court of Owls.
Let's go.
I can't wait for you guys to hear Christopher Sean talking more about that on the episode here at the end. Oh, it's so cool.
And it is up to the Knights to take them down, no matter the cost. So, opinions on the story.
I love that they're bringing in such a new quote unquote villain. I guess a group can't be considered a villain, but you know what I mean. The court, organization. You know, the court is a fairly recent creation in the Batman mythos, right? And it's just blown up. It's become huge, like almost like it's one of those classic Batman staples.
It is
almost
right now,
at this point, and it's really encouraging that's showing up in more media like this because maybe it can show up in some movies. I don't know.
The
Batman. But I love that. And I think the story is interesting. It's definitely different than any Batman games because it's not a Batman. You know, Batman's not in it. I guess that's why they call it Gotham Knights. But it's going to make the weight of it hit more because most of the people who are playing this game are Batman fans. Let's just be honest.
Oh, yeah.
So them going into a game knowing that Batman's not in it and then seeing the characters in the game more and over Batman 2 is going to hit a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you recently read the Court of Owls comics for the first time.
I love these stories.
Yeah.
And so these guys as your villain in it. I mean, I'm totally cool with the Joker and with the Penguin, preferably not Danny DeVito's version.
Yeah.
You know, Catwoman, Riddler, Two-Face, Scarecrow, all of those guys, those classic rogues gallery. Did I do that? Did I?
Nice.
You see that I did that?
Yeah, I like that.
I came out. I said something smart. I love that, but I'm excited about this because it's this secret society behind the scenes that fits in with this. You've got new heroes, and you've got new villains, villains that we are familiar with, but just like we're familiar with, you know, Nightwing and Red Hood and all of them. But now everybody's out leveling up their game, literally, in this. And so I think that's going to make the story of the Court of Owls so much more exciting.
And they said they wanted the Court of Owls in this game to be scary. And that's been showing in the trailers. They're like it's going to be freaky. And along with the Court of Owls, what I'm loving about this game and its story is how the Gotham Knights are at their lowest point and they're being hit so much with all these things, the Court of Owls, and they're also being hit by Harley Quinn, who is no longer under Joker's thumb and has kind of taken her own crime, and she's she's more dangerous. She's older and has become more powerful.
Wow.
Is what they've said. You've got Mr. Freeze, who's absolutely insanely powerful. He in one of the trailers, he froze a whole building at some point and caused snow. You have Clayface in this as well. He was confirmed. You have Professor Pig. It's all the villains are.
He's twisted.
He's twisted. He's twisted.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one.
That's gonna be a fun one. But it's just everybody's kind of arising at this point because Batman is dead.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what
filling
happens
that void.
whenever Batman dies or is rumored to be dead in the comics. The villains, start
because they feel like they have the freedom to do it now,
and so it's hard for these new heroes to keep up with that. It's crazy.
Well, I'm excited about it.
Yes, Gotham Knights releases on October 21st with Black Adam.
Wow,
so make
what a
sure to
day.
get your pre-orders in and pick up Gotham Knights as soon as you can.
So if you pre-order it to be downloaded, does it automatically download to your computer, and so you could watch it before going and seeing? Oh no, because the way that they do, it says October 21st, but really you'll get to go to theaters on the 20th to see Black Adam. So you can go to see Black Adam
and then come back to a downloaded Gotham Knights
at midnight and play Gotham Knights.
Yeah,
might as well do it. All right, good job, BB Nate.
Good job, Nate.
That was fun. I can't wait to play that game, and I can't wait for you guys to hear Christopher talk about that.
Yes,
we'll do that after a couple more segments. So just hold on, be patient.
It's coming.
It's coming. But before that, we need to head to Naboo this week on Is It Canon?
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right, so if you're new to the show, because you might be new to the show.
That'd be great.
Lots of you probably tuning in to learn about, hear from Christopher Sean, learn about Gotham Knights.
More fun stuff version.
More stuff version.
More stuff?
More fun stuff. It is more stuff that's fun. Yeah, anyway, this is how this segment works. I give a description of something I find on Wikipedia, Wiki, and then these guys make an argument for whether they think it's canon or legends.
Did you hit the random article button?
I did.
Awesome.
First thing.
Oh,
didn't
wow.
even have to reprocess through.
Awesome.
First thing. All right. It's called Alivor.
Are you sure this isn't Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it sounds very Lord of the Rings.
Alivor is a Force-sensitive male. Alivor was instructed in the ways of the Force by the Jedi Order. After achieving the rank of Jedi Knight, Alivor furthered his studies, eventually attaining the rank of Jedi Master, selecting Initiate Ron Aikanu as his Padawan. The pair set out into the galaxy to gain experience and grow from each other. In 32 BBY, that's before the Battle of Yavin.
Yes.
So this is episode 1.
I said we're going to Naboo.
Oh yeah, no, I'm saying this is about episode 1.
Right. Alivor sent Aikanu to the planet of Naboo to receive supplemental education at the Royal House of Learning in Theed. While his student was training, Alivor led a team of investigators to Naboo to examine an illegal wildlife smuggling operation that had been reported to the Jedi High Council. While building a case against the culprits, Alivor called upon Aikanu and sent him into the swamps to locate the smugglers' hideout. Sam, canon or legends?
There's really not a lot of obvious tells to this. Yeah, I mean, timeline fits fine. I mean, it's vague and its characters we don't know, but it very well could be canon. I'm going to say legends. And my only reasoning behind that is I don't think there's as much canon content written around the prequel era. Everything that's been coming out in recent years has been sequel trilogy, Civil War, and filling in that gap. And then up until now, or more recently, High Republic, which is all before Episode 1 and stuff, hundreds of years before. So based on that, I'm going to say it's legends.
Okay. Well, BB Nate, they've got the Age of the Republic comics.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Master and Apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
They've got
Brotherhood now.
Mm-hmm. They've got Queen's Shadow, all of the E.K. Johnson Padme novels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With that. So there is more content than you're giving credit for.
Yeah. Okay.
On this.
This seems legends. And why I say legends is because there's enough here to make a story. And this has to be a story in and of itself. This has to be the main story of whatever it is, a book or comic or anything. From my knowledge, the Age of Republic comics never had anything that would deal with this Alivor or anything. And I know pretty good about comics. From the books, I know that Brotherhood and Master and Apprentice both deal with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. And so I don't see any reason why this would be in here.
Yeah, why would they throw in a B story?
The Padme novels, this wouldn't fit in the Padme novels because why would she have exposure to Jedi before Episode 1?
Obi-Wan and Anakin, yeah.
And everything right now, just from what I know, it's legends. And that's what I'm going on, my knowledge.
Right. So you're both going legends?
I think we've agreed on legends.
Star Wars Invasion of Theed adventure game. It is a mini role-playing game that was released by Wizards of the Coast in 2000. The adventures involve both established and original characters. It's set during the Trade Federation's invasion and occupation of Theed, Naboo. Therefore, it is legends.
Huh.
Wow, that's cool.
That I could see that as being a pretty good RPG.
Yeah, that'd be
story.
fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
It does seem like fun. So check it out.
Yes.
All right. If you're into those types of things, play those games. Go pick it up.
Yeah.
22-year-old game.
You can still find a copy.
I bet you can.
Yeah.
eBay.
For like $40.
All right. Shmuley, what do you got going?
Yes, sir. Well, the 4th episode of Rings of Power may not have been as action-packed as others. It was no less important, though. It set up so many storylines and deepened so many relationships that we will see throughout the rest of the season. But one relationship that I want to dive into a little bit more is that of Elrond and Durin. I don't think it's just a repeat of Legolas and Gimli.
Ooh.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
You're coming to us. Is as the footsteps of
There are many magic Frodo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
We recorded the last one. I mean, we came out with an episode last week. We recorded it way early, so we had to see episode 3. Now we've seen episodes 3 and 4. Overall, thoughts on the show at this point?
At this point, it's great. The quality is good enough, better than some movies in theaters right now. It is impressive. I feel like I'm watching a movie every week, and the runtime is about an hour and 10 minutes each episode. Is long enough for a movie. It's great. I'm loving it. I always look forward to it at the end of the week.
Yeah, super excited about this, and obviously everyone now knows that the stranger is Gandalf, and that happened.
No,
it's Gandalf.
Who else would it be now?
It
can't be.
You know, like a lot of people are theorizing it's Tom Bombadil.
I've heard that, actually, which would be an interesting choice.
It would be a twist for it. Well, why don't we get into this conversation? I'll let you take over.
Yeah, well, one of the things that really stood out to me from episode 4 is this relationship between Elrond and Durin. And it's been building throughout the episode so far. But one of the aspects that I think is important is the first interaction we see between the two was a lot of stubbornness on Durin's part. He was upset, but rightfully so, as his best friend missed most of his life, all the important parts, right? But again, ultimately, Disa is able to convince Durin to forgive Elrond because, well, he wasn't there then, but he's here now. He's trying to amend for that. So initially, though, what was y'all's thoughts on this friendship? It kind of gave me, at least, kind of Legolas and Gimli vibes.
I didn't get Legolas and Gimli vibes because there's a lot more history to this friendship than there was for Legolas and Gimli. And Legolas and Gimli, they never genuinely had any disdain toward each other like Durin did to Elrond. He was not happy that Elrond wasn't there. And between Legolas and Gimli, it was always kind of playful banter and frenemies until the end when they became friends. And there was nothing. But Durin was hurt by what Elrond did. And Elrond was just trying to make up for it. And so I don't get Legolas and Gimli.
Okay.
But I do love their friendship. It's great. It is one of the deeper ones we've seen in Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an interesting story, and I love the way that you bring up the differences between Legolas and Gimli and Elrond and Durin, because I hadn't thought about some of those differences. That was really good. With it, I love the relationship. I think it's interesting to note that it really was a misunderstanding on Elrond's part based on different perspectives. Elrond is an immortal being,
right? Yeah,
and so time means nothing to him.
Yeah,
and he'd lived thousands of years before.
Right.
He met Durin. And so 20 years for him is a few days.
A week
or two, a couple of months. And meanwhile, for Durin, his perspective on age is this is
I've been married.
My greatest years of my life and the most biggest events and the most biggest.
Most biggestest.
Those are good words. Not in that sentence, the way that they were combined, but that's okay. It was really the biggest moments of his life were missed by that. So I thought that was a really interesting a lesson in perspective with that.
Do you think it was important or it was intentional that they decided to have our introduction to these characters be through an act of forgiveness, kind of setting the stage with their characters?
Well, I'm curious because I'm trying to think ahead now. With this, and by the time we get to Fellowship of the Ring and that kind of time frame, the classic Lord of the Rings stories, the relationship between the dwarves,
wow,
and just
dwarves and elves,
the dwarves and elves, is strained in a big way, and and you don't see Elrond with much love for Gimli when Gimli shows up, or much he thinks that this is a good thing. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go, but I do love the idea that it begins with this idea of forgiveness, and I think that Disa's role in this was really, really, really important and critical with that.
Yeah, I enjoyed how they introduced these characters. I loved how it took a while for Durin to get back to trusting Elrond, or at least
it's dwarven stubbornness.
That's true, but I'm happy they weren't just like, oh, hey, you're back. That's cool, kind of situation. And I'm interested in seeing how the fallout happens between elves and dwarves, because it happens before Hobbit. There's a lot of it's more present in Hobbit than it is in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Because you see most of the dwarves entering, and they lock them up immediately. And there's a bunch of complaining about it as well from the dwarf side. And it's just, there's something that happened between these.
It could be interesting.
Yeah. In this latest episode, Durin shows Elrond his super secret mithril mining operation. Say that 5 times fast. But only after he makes Elrond swear on the mountain to never tell a soul, right? And then after showing Elrond, Durin lets him keep a piece of the mithril, which honestly I didn't even expect. But this act would seem to suggest that Durin really does trust Elrond. But as we see later in the episode, when he's talking to his dad, it seems that the dwarves don't fully trust the elves' intentions and motives at the moment. Is Durin torn between trusting Elrond or distrusting the elves, or do you think Durin could have been untruthful with Elrond in the first place?
I don't think that Durin was untruthful with Elrond. I think that they're cautious. That's because the elves could totally screw up their whole operation with a snap of a finger. And so they need to be cautious. And I think that Durin isn't fully bought into Elrond yet, but there is a lot of friendship there and a lot of experiences before that he can rely on to trust Elrond. So I think that he feels trust, but he's not bought into him yet.
I think that the dwarves, specifically Durin and his father, do we even know the father's name?
It's Durin.
Is it Durin?
Yeah, I think he's Durin the third, and then Durin's the fourth. Yeah.
That makes sense now. I think that they have suspicions that there's more going on Middle Earth. And they don't trust the elves because they feel like the elves are holding back on something. They don't trust the men. They don't trust anybody because that's dwarves. And and so that's part of what's going on. I do think that I don't want to get too like, I don't want to go down a weird rabbit trail right now. But, there's a history within humanity. How do I say this diplomatically? There's a history within humanity where you may distrust an entire people group. You may not have relationship with that. You may not want to trust them. You don't think that they have your best interests in mind, that they're almost your enemies. You'll have this distrust for different people groups, and yet you'll have a relationship with an individual from that people group. And that relationship you see differently than you do their thought of the people group. And since we're dealing with the reality, I think we even talked about it on the last episode, that in the Lord of the Rings stories, the different species, the dwarves, the
races,
elves,
that's
the
what they're
hobbits are the races.
Yeah, that's what
Middle
they're
Earth.
called.
And so you've got this racial tension is what it almost feels like between the dwarves and the elves and the elves and the dwarves. And yet you've got Durin and you've got Elrond saying, but I'm friends with, and so they don't see it on an individual. And I think that that's a really interesting social commentary in the story. So.
Very interesting. Yeah. Do you think that maybe that whole operation, right, that the elves have tasked the dwarves with, right, building that forge, do you think that there's something that happens in there that could be the catalyst for that tension that we see in the later stories?
I wouldn't be surprised if people and elves look to the dwarves to blame for the Rings of Power and evil rising again because they helped forge them. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it's looked at that because
the elves are still pretty high class.
Exactly,
these
elves
stories.
are these lit beings who are immortal and respectable and all this, and dwarves are people who live in mountains and get dirty and mine like that.
It's kind of the like blue collar man,
and so I mean, just today in reality, we would probably blame the dwarves first before the elves because that's just how it is, and that's how people think. And so I think that's what could have happened here because
that's interesting. Yeah. Well, after the mithril mining operation goes sideways in that episode, Durin's dad shuts down the lucrative operation for more fear, over fear of more disaster.
That's about right.
And after Durin all but basically curses out his father, Elrond tells him that he often wonders what his father thinks of him, or would have thought of him, whether he would judge his actions as right as wrong. But then Elrond says it doesn't matter what the judgment would be. as his father's passed away, all he would care about is that his father would be there to judge him at that moment, right? He would be there with him to judge him. And he then tells Durin to not squander what time he has with his father. And then once Durin goes to apologize to his father, fearing the worst, his father lovingly tells him that he'll always be with him and that there's nothing to forgive. So Elrond knew exactly what to say to help Durin in one of his lowest moments. So you can see that. Do you think that he and Durin have been through quite a lot of experiences like this together?
I didn't take that from the relationship in that. What I took from the what Elrond was saying was genuinely Elrond. Yes, Elrond has a close relationship with Durin, cares for Durin, and wanted to give Durin great advice. But Elrond was speaking from a place of pain, where there seems to me, at least from watching that episode, it felt to me like the relationship between Elrond and his father was not good. It was judgmental. It was overbearing. It wasn't great.
Right.
And I'm sure that through the ages that they were, interacting, it was frustrating and hurtful to Elrond. But now that he's gone ages without him, he's like, I'd go back and I'd take those moments of hurt just to be with my dad again.
Yeah.
And that was more important to him in that moment to share with Durin than kind of keeping that to himself. As someone whose father was, loving, caring, always there for me, but also extremely judgmental and extremely harsh and a tough, difficult man that I never felt like I pleased, and who has passed away now 17 years ago. I related tremendously with the advice Elrond was giving to Durin. Like, don't let the hurt and the frustration and the anger keep you from, when he was talking about, you don't want your last words to your dad to be that was like, I'm like, you're right. I'm like, please. And then when we went into the throne room and he was on the throne, I thought he had died.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was dying inside because I was thinking, man, I was so grateful that my last interactions with my father were positive, and for that to have not been the case for just a few seconds in my mind for Durin, I was pretty heartbroken for him, and then relieved to see what happened after that.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Elrond's advice. I thought that he was so genuine, and you could tell the consideration of, would this help Durin in this moment or not, before he actually said it. It was, you could see it, like the gears turning in his head, and then he decided it would be the best. And what he said was genuine, and it's rare to see elves show emotion.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
and
true.
So seeing him genuinely sad and because of losing his father, and he understands what his father did, whatever it was important to all of civilization, he still would just have that little selfish part of him that he wanted to talk with his dad one more time. And it was so good. This show's so good.
It really is. Well, I think that kind of like sets up kind of a good spot for a dad moment. So
I am your father.
So, I mean, as we were just talking about, that moment when Durin's father reassures him that his love could never fail was really the highlight of the series so far for me. It was great on so many different levels. First, it's a message that's too often lost in popular storytelling today. Dads kind of seem like they're treated a lot like failures or harsh or just generally negative or even a joke in storytelling today. But this moment was a moment of strength. It was a moment of forgiveness, and it was a moment of love. And so it was really powerful. And then secondly, for those of us who are Christians, it should also be a reminder of God's love for us as his children. One verse in the Bible perfectly tells us what we see with Durin, that nothing can separate us from his love, which is what Durin's father was saying to him. So really powerful storytelling in this. So.
Yeah, I seriously have no complaints with this series so far. Writing has been fantastic, as we just discussed. Visuals are still stunning, and the episodes always leave me wanting more at the end. So I just hate that I have to wait for Friday to see the next chapter of this amazing story.
Mid-season finale. Well, I don't think we'll have any break, but it's mid-season point.
Dang.
That's crazy. Yeah. All right. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so let's talk about some movies. Bizarre is going to hit the theaters this weekend, but that has nothing to do with the actual movie.
Oh.
I'll explain on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
All right, for the first new release, well, new release and then re-release. The new release this weekend is Don't Worry, Darling. It's about a 1950s housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community. Begins to worry that his glamorous company may be hiding disturbing secrets.
Utopian stories always end well, right?
Yeah. The director is Olivia Wilde. The cast is Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, and Olivia Wilde. Yeah. The studio is Warner Brothers.
It just makes so much more sense.
Yes. It is rated R for sexuality, violent content, and language. No, we're not going.
No, we're not going.
But it's honestly a lot of fun to just watch what's going on behind the scenes.
That's been
what's going on behind the scenes?
That's the one with Florence Pugh, like that had a fight with Olivia Wilde during the production.
Wait, what?
Olivia Wilde, like they, I guess Shia LaBeouf
was in the movie?
Was originally the character that Harry Styles is playing, and then he quit. And then Olivia Wilde tried to get him to come back and sent this recorded video of herself, like telling all the reasons why Florence Pugh is wrong, and I'm sorry, and like throwing Florence Pugh under the bus. And they brought in Harry Styles, and they finished filming, but then that leaked after filming. It got public, and so now Florence Pugh didn't go to any red carpet, didn't do any interviews, didn't do anything, so just showed up for the screening at the thing, didn't speak to Olivia Wilde, didn't look at Olivia Wilde. And then, let's just be honest, the weirdest moment of that whole thing was when Harry Styles comes in and he sits down next to Chris Pine, and on the way to sit down, it really does look like he spits in his lap. And Chris Pine is sitting there looking at him like, what just happened? Like that uncomfortable, like, I want to beat the crap out of this guy look, but I'm going to laugh so I don't because there's thousands of people watching right now. I mean, this video is insane.
And wow. The looks of Chris Pine during, the press conferences and everything for this movie is just hilarious.
He looks like he's constantly
bored.
Positioning himself between Florence Pugh and Olivia Wilde so they don't beat each other up on the red carpet.
And he just looks so bored.
Like he doesn't want to be there.
Exactly. Back in Star Trek.
The original press conference, though, when he's sitting there, he looks like, I cannot believe I'm having to go through this. The body language.
He's like, I wish I was at the Dungeons and Dragons press conference.
Without a doubt. All right.
And for the re-release this weekend, only in 3D, by the way, at least they haven't released any showtimes for anything else, it's Avatar. It is... If you don't know about it, where have you been for the past 12 years?
The highest grossing film of all time.
Exactly. Jake Sully is a wounded ex-Marine thrust into an effort to settle and exploit Pandora, an exotic moon rich in biodiversity and inhabited by the Na'vi.
Hey, we've been there.
A 10-foot tall humanoid species. After Neytiri, a female Na'vi, rescues Jake after he becomes separated from his team, he learns more about the planet and eventually crosses over to lead the indigenous race in a battle for survival. The director is James Cameron. The cast is Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, and Sigourney Weaver. The studio is 20th Century Studios. It is rated PG-13 for intense epic battle sequences and warfare, sensuality, language, and some smoking. Going yes or no?
Yeah, I think we want to try to go to this.
Do you want to try to go to the IMAX version?
I don't care. I just want to go
sometime.
I want to see probably IMAX. I mean, this is one of those. We never saw this in theaters. The first time we watched it in 3D
it was at a hotel.
They had a little theater
room sort of thing. Yeah.
So definitely,
probably
gonna try to see that with it. All right, keep going.
For trailers, I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Oh, I want to dance with somebody.
Naomi Ackie is playing Whitney Houston. I didn't actually watch the trailer.
I want to be the heat.
Was it a good trailer?
I didn't watch it either. I thought you would watch it.
Well,
That's your job. You've got one job.
Well, I was waiting to watch it with Mom because she's such a big Whitney Houston person.
Yeah, we need to watch that with her afterwards.
And another
but
trailer.
It's got Naomi Ackie.
It does.
Got,
as Whitney Houston.
What was her character? Why am I blanking her character in Rise of Skywalker?
Oh, crap.
I don't remember
I know
her name.
who you're talking about.
I feel like a horrible person.
All right. And another trailer, Halloween Ends. Okay.
Don't want to see it.
Yeah. Not our.
It was a weird
thing.
trailer to watch because, like, Jamie Lee Curtis is just going to town on beating up Mike Myers. It was weird. So, anyway.
Box office results, Woman King.
Yeah,
19 million domestic. Not bad.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
we still have
good.
to watch that and see how they run. Both we need to watch.
Those both look pretty good.
Barbarian. 6
Still
million
6
domestic.
million. That's pretty good for that kind of movie.
Yeah. It kind of looks like it kind of got legs this weekend. I know that it made more first weekend, but it's still doing strong. And Pearl, 3 million. That's a terrible first weekend. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a weird weekend for theater or
period. It was a
period
weird
of time
spot.
for movies in the theaters right now. So cool. Well, it's here. It's finally time.
Yeah.
We've been teasing this interview for months.
The more fun
We've
stuff
been waiting to
interview.
do this interview for years. So let's talk with Christopher Sean.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
Gotta explain the rest of the story behind it. Favorite, like when you think about Star Wars Resistance, what was your favorite moment when it like popped into your head?
Ooh. I mean, I know this may be a not a popular opinion, but honestly, I kind of liked the slapsticky kind of clumsiness to Kaz at times. I mean,
okay. That's cool.
It was cool. Like, you know, was not good on the ground. Like, you put him on a boots on the ground mission and he's not good. But you put him in a cockpit and he can hold his own right up there with Poe. So I kind of liked that. It was fun. It was like Jar Jar, but if he was competent.
That's cool. What about you?
I think it was in the second season. They had a big like race in space. It was awesome outside of a space station.
Yeah.
That was such a cool scene. That was a cool episode. It was like the whole episode took it up, and it
I remember
was just
that
a lot
one,
of fun.
At
it
the
felt like
casino,
pod
right?
racing, but better. It was great.
Yeah,
I really liked the end of season 1 as it folded into the events of Force Awakens and going into the Last Jedi and stuff like that.
And
That
you saw the Huck speech and stuff. That was crazy.
It was really cool to see that happening because I don't think we'd seen anything like that. I mean, we do at the beginning of Bad Batch. We see the events of Revenge of the Sith being done animated, but this was fun to see. The first time we ever saw something like that in animation,
that was pretty cool.
Was this? It was pretty awesome. So let's interviewing Christopher Sean. Finally get a chance to do it. BB-8.
Yes.
You're excited about him for Gotham Knights.
I am.
With that. But Sam, we've been trying to do this interview for 3 years. Explain really briefly for those listening that may not know, explain the story as to how we came about getting this interview with Chris. I don't think he goes by Chris. We're going to call him Christopher and you can call him Mr. Sean if you want. All right.
So it was Celebration 2019, Chicago. We had been talking to him on Twitter a little bit, wanting to set up this interview, right? We kept talking to him, but he kept like having to push it off, right? He's like super busy, super scheduled. He's like, hey, I'll have to do it this day. I have to do it this way. And just kept getting pushed off. And so, it was Sunday. We didn't really think it was going to happen, but that was all right. We made our peace with it. We understood. They're packing up the show floor. The lights are turning
Closing
off.
ceremonies are done.
It's done. Like, they're packing up. They're ready to go home. And Dad checks
Which, by the
Twitter.
way, best time to buy merch.
Yes, people are just getting ready.
They're like giving it away. By the way, that's a Star Wars Celebration pro tip right there. Buy your stuff at the end of the day.
Haggle for the price, and you'll get a good one at that point because they want to get rid of inventory. But Dad checks his Twitter and he sees a message from Sean, and he's like, "Look,
Christopher Sean, Mr. Sean.
Whatever.
Oh, did you say Mr.?
I just said Sean.
Okay.
But he Christopher, Mr. Sean, messages him and says, hey, I don't have time for a whole interview, but I want to meet with you guys, talk for a minute or two, and just get to meet y'all. And so we're like, heck yeah, we'll come over. So we go over to his booth, right, and like where he was doing
where
autographs.
He was doing his autographs.
And we just walked up. He's like, hey guys, so nice to meet you. Shaking our hands, being super awesome. He ends up, he's
always.
like, y'all want an autograph? He just signs one of the pictures, gives it to us, doesn't ask for a price. He's like, this one was messed up too. I put a smudge on it. Y'all want that too? I don't need it. You know, and super cool dude. He like recorded an endorsement for a podcast in the Kaz character. I mean, super great guy. He's like, we'll have to reschedule an interview. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah. So we tried to reschedule, several times, and then as Podathon was coming together, here comes a message from Christopher Sean, and he's like, I feel like I owe you guys an interview. And I'm like, yes, you do.
Yes,
and so
sir.
We exchanged emails and got it scheduled and recorded it. And he talks obviously about Star Wars Resistance. And he talks about Star Wars Visions, which is really amazing.
That was an awesome part of it. That was
so cool. His perspective on it was really cool.
And then, of course, Gotham Knights. And so without any further ado, here's our interview with Christopher Sean. All right, we are so excited to have Christopher Sean on the show with Podathon 2022 as we all partner together to try to raise more than $10,000 for Make-A-Wish this year. We're super excited to have him as our guest. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, Christopher.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. 3 years in the making, as you said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great, so cool. Man. You guys are awesome. You guys look better than ever, which is strange. It shouldn't be that way.
Well, they look better than ever. I'm still as ugly as always. So we'll be good to go on that. Well, listen, obviously most Star Wars fans, when they think of you, they think of Star Wars Resistance and those two amazing seasons as Kaz on that. So I'm always curious to hear these kinds of stories because we love to hear about actors when they find out that they're engaging in Star Wars in that moment. So where were you when you got the call that you had landed the role of Kaz in Star Wars Resistance? What was that like?
That's a great question. I don't remember where I was. I remember getting the call. So cool. We were driving around town, like, my agent's like, hey, I'm your agent in New York. Lucasfilm is calling for you. And who are you? And I'm like, who am I? Who are you? He's like, I'm your agent in New York. Like, I'm coming to LA. I want to meet you. I'm like, all right, cool. I remember that call. We were looking to buy a house at the time because Days of Our Lives and Hawaii Five-0 had been going great. And then Star Wars Resistance had kind of popped off at the time. I mean, it hadn't, but we had found out about that. And I was like, man, everything's this is awesome. But like, I don't remember where I was exactly when I got the call that I booked it. That's crazy. I can't believe I forgot.
That's so funny. So what was it like though, when you knew you were going to be in Star Wars? Were you already a Star Wars fan before that?
I was a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, I grew up and my dad would do like impersonations of Chewbacca and Yoda and like kind of like the doorway guys in the back there. We would be me and my sisters, we'd be in a bunk bed. And my dad would be like, it's time to go to sleep. And like, tell us a story. So he'd be running back and forth from the doorway and pretending like he was fighting 500 ninjas on this side. And then he'd run past the door as Chewbacca and fight another 500 and he'd come back as Yoda. He was so cool, man.
That's fun.
But yeah, so growing up, it was always Star Wars in our family. And we did enjoy Star Trek. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But Star Wars is kind of the go-to. It's it's the nostalgia. It's the family element,
Definitely. What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
Nice. Good choice.
Anakin.
Why specifically?
Darth Vader's amazing. Some of the best quotes are from that movie as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I just love Darth Vader. I love Anakin Skywalker. I've always loved Luke Skywalker, but the more I get older, the more I realize just how much I really relate to Darth Vader.
A little dark side then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just I love younglings, but I mean that's the only difference. No, the only difference. No, honestly, I grew up and I had a pretty hard life growing up, and not hard. I had a lot of obstacles that I had to overcome that were, for me, biggest challenges of my life, and I could have easily gone a different route. I could have, just like any of us, in life, we're presented so many obstacles and challenges, and it's up to us to make the right choices, morally sound choices, to then become the light, the Jedi, if you will. But it's so easy to become Sith. It's so easy to be tempted by the dark side, by these choices. And for me, I had made some pretty bad choices in my life growing up, and I realized, like, man, I screwed up quite a bit. So I'm glad that I've been able to adapt and change and evolve and become a different person than who I used to be.
So that redemption element within Star Wars is an important piece of it for you.
Absolutely. The family element, the redemption element, the understanding oneself to truly love oneself and then be able to share that love is the only way to truly share love, right? So I don't know, the redemption aspect of it, understanding that all of it was wrong until that very moment, finally taking a stance for someone you love, I thought that was beautiful.
That's awesome.
It's powerful.
That's awesome. Kaz has got lots of those moments where he has like lots of choices that he has to make as a character, or, things like that. So that's a really cool thing with it. So,
kind of one of the coolest things about Resistance is it runs parallel to the sequel trilogy, at least the timeline does. So what was the creative process like when you were recording episodes that could like have revealed plot points from the films?
Incredible. I mean, because they're so secretive, so secretive. Excuse me, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Good.
They're super secretive at Lucasfilm, so much so that you won't get the script until the day before. Then you go in and you record, and you're kind of like, all right, let's get to work. Let's figure things out. I mean, on Visions, it's a similar thing. We didn't even get the script until the day of. When we walked into the room, I was like, all right,
congratulations, you're going to act this, but we don't even know what I'm acting. So.
Yeah, they're like, here's a visual. Now figure it out. You're like, okay, I got 20 minutes. Let's go. But like crazy. with Resistance, it was amazing because, the entire time you're thinking, we're running parallel to the main cinematic storyline. Like, are we going to be a part of the movies? Are we going to be actually in the movies? Like,
right.
And they did that with Rebels and Forrest Whitaker's character. And I was just like, oh man, there's opportunity. But also it's the fact that Poe Dameron was such a huge inspiration to Kazuda Xiono. And then having the opportunity myself, they flew me to New York to work with Oscar Isaac. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, right. They're like, hey, dude, do you want to, I don't know, maybe go to New York, work with Oscar Isaac? I was like, yes. They're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, by the way, he's performing Hamlet, off Broadway. You want to go see that? Here's some tickets. I'm like, yes. What the heck? So the day before, right when I land, the day before, I get to watch him perform that night. And then the next day I'm trying to show up an hour early to impress him. And I show up and he's sitting there sipping tea and he's watching. He's like, hey, I love your character, man. This is great. I'm like, Oscar Isaac just said I'm awesome. Like, what the heck? This is crazy.
That's incredible.
Dude, it's so amazing.
Cool. That's pretty cool.
Speaking of being in the films, the finale of Resistance set up the chance for Kaz and Team Colossus to join the fight in The Rise of Skywalker, and they did in the novelization. We had hoped to see you and the rest of the cast make an appearance at the Battle of Exegol. So were there any conversations about that possibly happening?
Well, what we were told, they actually invited us to the screening, the world premiere, of The Rise of Skywalker.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And we were actually cast. We were part of the cast. So I'm like, this is amazing. So I'm walking. I told my lady for months, I was like, babe, I'm walking the red carpet and I'm going to be walking the red carpet with Luke Skywalker. I kid you not. And she's like, sure. Like, sweetie, it's not going to happen. I'm like, we get there. And as we're walking up, I'm like, please be here. Please be there. I'm like, oh, I guess he's not going to show. And as we're getting ready to walk up, the limo pulls up and out comes Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. And he walks right in front of us. And I'm like, go quicker, baby, go quicker. We got to get next to him. And we walk up and we get on the red carpet and he just walks past. And I was like, oh my God, I get to walk the red carpet right after the legend. And then right in front of us, another limo pulls up and there's J.J. Abrams. And I'm like, I'm like, walk slower, baby, walk slower. We got to walk next to J.J. Abrams. No, it was amazing. That was really cool. But yeah, when we were there, they said we were part of the cast. And they said, if you look closely at the very end, you're going to see our ships in the final battle. It's a split second. And I was like, oh, so our ships were a part of it. Our voices were not, but
right.
The spirit of the Resistance, the spirit of Team Fireball was all there.
There we go.
That's so cool.
It's awesome because I remember we were on our show, especially, we were speculating leading up to Rise of Skywalker because all of the actors seemed to like, they could actually play their live action version and we were like, yeah, no, this is going to happen. Like Stephen Stanton, he looks just like Griff Halloran. And, obviously Christopher Sean is just like Kaz and all this. So we were like speculating about it. And when we saw the ships in the trailer, everybody, Star Wars podcasters and YouTubers were crazy. So we're sitting there digging into every screenshot that we can get, and that's them. They're going to be in it, and so we were super bummed. But then when we read the novelization, and there you guys were, your actual characters were brought into the novelization, and those moments happened. It was super exciting.
It's really cool.
With it, yeah.
Yeah, it was an honor. I mean, it's canonical. It's amazing. Dave Filoni, George Lucas, Jon Favreau, the entire team at Athena Portillo. I'm just honored that they would see me and say, that's the guy we want,
Yeah. I mean, you're part of such like a legacy now, like this just huge legacy. But I mean, after Star Wars Resistance finished, did you ever think you would get the opportunity to be a part of that legacy again, to work in the Star Wars universe again?
I did not think that would be a possibility. As much as I dream and I continue to put it out there in the universe, like, I love more opportunities, please. But honestly, I never thought it would happen. And then all of a sudden, I try to meditate every morning, whether it be 10 minutes or an hour. I get up and I sit right up and I go right into meditation, because I believe if we can control this, and 70% of our day is just thoughts, and we have 70,000 thoughts a day. If we can control our perception of what our mind says, then in reality, then we are controlling the world that we see and what will come to us. So do or do not, there's no try. So for me, I was like, I am going to be in a Star Wars project again. And lo and behold, I get a call from my agent, another agent, and they're like, hey, Star Wars wants you to be a part of a project, but they will not tell you anything about it. Are you in or are you not? And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm in. 100%.
Star Wars, I'm good.
Say no more. I took the glasses down. I was like, yeah.
And then you called your lady and were like, I'm in Star Wars again. And she didn't believe you. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, right. She hung up. No.
That's so cool.
It was an amazing experience. And then, like I said, walking in, we're there, and to see the Japanese anime inspired Star Wars universe of visions. I mean, Resistance was anime inspired. So we had a lot of anime tropes, like the big exaggerated faces. And, some very cool stylistic choices were made by Justin Ridge and Brandon Auman and Amy Beth Christensen, amazing team. But again, Visions in itself is Japanese artists and creators from Japan, directors. So it's complete Asian American influence, Japanese influence. Beautiful, right. Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like being at this last Star Wars celebration, and more specifically, the Star Wars Visions Season 2 panel?
I didn't even know it was, again, I didn't know. I got a call like a week ago, and a week before the event, and they were like, hey, Sean, what up, man? You want to do a panel at Celebration? I'm like, man, I've been trying to get into Celebration forever. Of course I want to be there. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm in. They're like, cool. So Visions is having a panel. It's going to be a surprise. We'll have you there. And we get there, and I had an amazing handler. She was so cool, so kind. I'm dropping her name. I apologize. But I got to bring my youngest, Samuel.
Oh,
and
that's
me and
awesome.
Samuel, we're like, all right, let's take pictures. And we're hanging out, we're walking around, and, he's a big Star Wars fan also. So he had been watching a boatload of the movies and Clone Wars just to kind of catch up before we went. So when we get there, he's like, one of his favorites is Grievous, General Grievous. He loves cyborgs. Wow. So every time we see General Grievous, he's like in, he's like, yeah, let's take a photo here. It's like, yeah. So the pride was strong.
That's so cool.
But yeah, right before we're all, me and Bobby Moynihan and Andrew Ishii and Keone Young and I mean, everyone in the back, we're getting ready to walk out on stage, and they go, hey, we have a surprise for you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like, am I going to be in the live action? And they're like, no, we, this is what the panel is for. We're actually picked up for season 2. So get out there and have a good time. And we're like, what? Like, so we're all walking out with this huge smile on our faces because we were just told, like, we're picked up. So it was amazing.
That's
it was really
so cool.
That is so cool. So before working on Star Wars Visions, you talked about how kind of Resistance was anime inspired, and then obviously Visions was, clearly anime driven, classic anime. But before all of that, what was your exposure to anime, if any? I grew up in the Philippines in Subic Bay, partially when I was a kid, and my grandparents are my grandma, my grandpa, my mom's side is all Japanese. So when we were in the Philippines, we constantly went back and forth to Japan growing up. So nice. I grew up and I watched Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. I had Naruto. I had so many Lupin the Thirds, Doraemon. I mean, for me, anime is deep. Yesterday I was just watching Shippuden. I was rewatching the Guy Lee fighting Madara Uchiha in Shippuden, and I think that's episode 420. So 419, 420. Like for me, I'm a huge anime fan. I love all of Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli projects. Yeah. Totoro and Nausicaa, but my favorite, Princess Mononoke. So when I came into Visions, growing up, and again, Princess Mononoke still is probably my favorite anime. Seeing this world of the Village Bride, it was very similar to what, not what the general, because I haven't seen Princess Mononoke in a while. I can't remember their names. Right. Okay. But the lead male who rides the red elk, his village was so peaceful and calm. It reminded me of the Village Bride. Okay. And where she the girl who rode the wolves, where she was in the forest, reminded me of the Princess Bride. So again, like there's this nostalgic wave that hit me, cool. and I was just like captivated. I was so blown away. After watching it, we came in and I was like, let's get to work immediately. Like, I know it. Let's go. Let's get right to work. So we knock it all out. We have about 30 minutes to spare. And he's like, okay, you're good. And I was like, actually, let's go through my parts all the way through again to make sure that we didn't miss a beat. We didn't miss anything. And there was one line that I saw and I was like, let's redo that one. I feel that I went the wrong intent with it after kind of seeing it all in order. Cool. We do it again. And that was the line that made it into the trailer. I was like, yes, like that's you know, awesome. You did something right if you make it in the trailer, That's so
it was
awesome.
Cool, man.
So that was really special for you to be able to work on Visions because of that anime, the background and history for you and how much you love it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually I did shed tears of joy and happiness. I sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with happiness when I see, fathers coming home from the military videos on YouTube or, cute little puppies. Right. Like they swell me up, they tear me up. But it was, in seeing kind of what we created with Visions in the Village Bride, I definitely I broke down. It was amazing.
That's amazing.
Cool. Now, besides Village Bride, because obviously that's going to be your favorite, what's your favorite short in Star Wars Vision Season 1?
I love Bobby Moynihan and I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I am not going to choose their episode. What, bro? What? No, actually, Brian T. The first episode. What was the name of the duel?
The duel.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
That Ronin inspired story. Yeah.
How cool is that? Like, I've always felt like an outsider my whole life. Like, I'm not American. You're Japanese. In America, they'll know you're Japanese, you're Asian. And in Japan, they're like, no, you're white. I'm never really kind of fit into a particular group. So I have always felt like myself, a Ronin. So in seeing that episode, it was kind of like this guy's helping out this, this village. Why not? And it's like, I was like, it's so relatable. It's such a badass role. I apologize if I shouldn't curse.
No, you're good. Don't stress. So.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, for me, that one was incredible. I loved the what was the one where there was like the Ninth Jedi or something?
Yes.
The Ninth Jedi?
Yeah,
that one's our favorite. Easy.
Because that's like, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? And there's so many twists, right?
Right.
Wow. Love that,
so good.
man.
The stories in Visions were some of the most exciting storytelling in Star Wars, that I've ever seen, and I've been around since before Star Wars. So I absolutely fell in love with Visions. It's one of those you can throw on and just watch one of those 10-15 minute shorts, and it's so impactful.
Yeah, it's great.
But we got to talk about some other stuff, because it's not just Star Wars in your world, and not in ours either. Everybody that knows us knows that we we talk Batman all the time because of this guy. So
yes, and it's a huge. I'm so excited for Gotham Knights, but I'm wondering for you, how does it feel to be taking up the mantle of Nightwing?
It's amazing. Nightwing is Batman's first protege. Nightwing has become a hero in his own right. And Nightwing is one of the most beloved characters in DC, in the DC universe. So to be able to kind of try and fill these shoes, it's been something that I've tried to stay optimistic, but also I'm like, I was always extremely nervous. I really don't want to screw up. I really want to do this right. And that if you're feeling the nerves, it's kind of like right before a race. If you don't have those nerves, something's wrong. You're not, you don't really want this, or you're not right. Like for me, it's not that you're not right. Cancel that. Something's wrong with you in the head, man. I mean, for me, it was like, I was extremely excited. Now I had an image of who I thought was Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond, in my phone for 15 years. I had it as my wallpaper. It's him kind of hanging upside down, shirtless.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And he's got his collie sticks, and I was like, dude, this is who I want to be. I want to be Terry McGinnis at the time, thinking. Well, the happenstance of me actually booking the role was crazy. We had Anne LeMay, Wilson Mui, the director, and director of cinematics and director of narrative, both in the casting room, as well as Julia B.S. casting. I'm so sorry, excuse me. So the three of them, they're there, and they're amazing. Super nervous in the room, but they're so giving. And I actually came into audition for Red Hood first.
Okay,
really? Okay.
And as I'm sitting there, Julia, she's awesome, and she's working with me, and Anne's working with me, and Wilson's just there shaking his head, and he's like the Simon Cowell, bro. He's like looking at me, scout. And I remember telling him, I told him this too, and I was like, why are you shaking your head at me? He's like, dude, I already knew that you were not Red Hood. So they gave me the script for Nightwing, and I was like, I'll have it memorized. They're like, will you? And I was like, don't worry, soap opera training. I'll have it memorized. So I left the room.
Days of our lives coming back.
They were like 20 minutes. They called me back in like 10, maybe even 7 minutes.
Ooh.
And I call my lady, I call my lady. I'm like, babe, Star Wars is calling for me again. No, I'm kidding. No. I call my lady. I'm like, they gave me a different script. I got to study. I love you. I'll let you know how it goes. I quickly study, get back in the room, and I'm off book. And I'm working with them, and they're like, and at that point, Wilson's like nodding his head. He's like, this is what we wanted. So I'm feeling great. Get the call back. And that story in itself was wild, but I get the call back going. And basically they said, we've never had an Asian American Nightwing. So we're very excited, and we're fighting for the diversity now. Fighting so much that we're probably not going to call anyone else in. And I was like, Anne, I love you. Like, you're amazing. You're perfect. And like, but you have to nail this so we can get the executives at DC to believe in you as well, just as much as we do.
Wow.
And so, right off the back, I felt like they gave me permission, and they gave me the authority to say, you know what, have fun and play. And
that's so cool.
And that was it. Like, I got to jump in, and in our story, they kill Batman. And in killing Batman, it's up to the Bat family to step in and, try and protect Gotham City. So it's going to be an epic ride, man. I cannot wait.
It's a fascinating story of it.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I got a question. What research did you do to prepare for the role of Nightwing? I mean, I know you were auditioning for Red Hood.
He's grabbing his comic book stack right now.
I got you. So I started off with this book, Grayson.
Ooh,
right?
okay,
And,
good one.
And I got markers in here actually of like different stories that are amazing. And actually, in reading this comic, is where I found that image of who I thought was Terry McGinnis hanging upside down, and I was like, "Holy moly, that's Dick Grayson!" Like,
no way,
yeah. And they were like,
talk about manifesting for 15 years, right? Man, come on.
That's
and,
crazy.
and who would have thought? Like, I'm an Asian American Navy brat, right? Like, I never would have thought that I'd be the guy that could play Dick Grayson. And
That's
again,
so awesome.
It was incredible. I'm trying to
That's
find
so
the
cool.
shot actually of it, but it might be here. But also when we kind of got the job, it was one of those things where they were like, I said to them, "Hey, what should I be researching? Like, what should I be looking into?" Right? And they were like, "Well, first and foremost, we're giving you this guy, the Court of Owls."
Oh, yes.
Right, by Scott Snyder. We just did a panel at San Diego Comic-Con, and Scott Snyder is sitting right next to my
Nathan's
left.
favorite in the world is Scott Snyder.
Oh, it's incredible.
He's incredible.
So cool.
And his passion for Batman, like everything about him, he's just a really intelligent, articulate, and awesome cat, like who is like so kind and generous, giving us his time, especially at Comic-Con where he's pulled in every direction. But he was able to sit down and talk about how he had the opportunity to start writing for Batman and create the Court of Owls. And then on top of that, like to see kind of our project take it and then expand on it and put it in this whole different light. It was like, he was just so gracious. He was such a great guy.
That's incredible.
That's insane. I what got me into DC was the Court of Owls comics. So that's what was so insane.
There it is. There's the image.
So that's the image, man. I had that image in my phone for so many years and I didn't even know. And now I'm building to get to this physique now. I'll get there.
There you go.
But,
there you go.
I've been killing it at the gym. Let me tell you. I got a splits machine too, where I crank it. It makes me do the splits more. Like I'm doing everything I can to make sure that I epitomize it. I really embody the role as much as I possibly can. So that when people see me, they go, you know what? I can actually see you as Nightwing. You know, like so I want to do the role justice. Like when I played Kaz,
that's cool.
I made sure that I bumped into every piece of cooking utensils that we had, and knocked over as many cups of water that I had. You know, like that was I really method acted that role. No, I'm kidding.
That's so funny.
That's fun.
That's cool.
But,
so
and I have a whole stack of comic books.
That's awesome. So you obviously are a DC fan, but who is your favorite character? And I guess I have to say other than Nightwing, because that's probably an obvious answer.
Oh man, I've always loved Batman. Ever since I saw Michael Keaton as Batman with Tim Burton days, and I saw Christian Bale. I just really love Batman. Robert Pattinson did a phenomenal job, but for me, it's I even love Val Kilmer's Batman. Like George Clooney, I love him. Like when I saw Chris O'Donnell,
you love him, not maybe his Batman. No, I'm kidding.
No, I even loved how colorful and dynamic and comic booky it was. Like it was. I love that nod that they gave to it. And in all honesty, like I just worked with Chris O'Donnell, who played Dick Grayson.
Right.
Batman and Robin. Robin grows up to become Nightwing, right? So I saw Chris O'Donnell. I was like, dude, like I worked with him on NCIS LA, and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan. I always say, "Holy rusted metal, Batman." That's what you're saying. No, really, this is holy rusted metal. And he's like, "Oh, I see." I still say that saying. It's made such an impact on me. But yeah, getting worked with him, I told him, "Hey, man, just to let you know, I'm going to be playing Nightwing in this new project." And he's like, "Oh, that's so cool." And we just sat and chatted for about half an hour. And they kept calling us to set, and we were like, "Hold on, guys, Nightwings are talking. All right." No,
we've got important things to discuss.
No, but he was great. I mean, he was such a cool guy. LL Cool J was phenomenal, but to sit down and talk to my original Nightwing, that was incredible. So I'm a huge Batman fan. To answer your question, I would say Superman. Superman's my favorite. No, I'm kidding.
Cool.
No, Batman. Batman's my favorite.
That's funny. So you talked about kind of the call and what that was all like for Gotham Knights and stuff. But what's it like to do voice acting for a game this big?
I come into it with the same respect that I take any other job. Like I work really hard the night before in memorizing all my dialogue to really understand what it is that the choices, strong choices, then be able to kind of divert from that and try other choices as well. So I'm very flexible. And in the day, it's like, oh, you want me to cry? You want me to laugh? You want me to say it mad? Well, how would you like this? Because I can do it any which way. And in working with the other actors is typically where I get my choices, unless it's a moment where I have to kind of take control of the situation and then direct the other actors through acting. I try and apply that, but I don't typically do that often. My role is to definitely like volley, to be someone who can, if you give me something, I'm going to give you something back in return. And I'm going to try and give you something that you may or may not have expected to then increase your reaction so that the scene has a lot of life. And the trick to that is capturing that and then repeating that as if it's just the first time you're having that original reaction. So that's the hardest part, is capturing those nuances of surprise, those nuances of actual fear or anger or whatever it may be. And the directors in these projects, like I said, Wilson Mui, he is phenomenal. Then you got Anne LeMay. She was there every day kicking butt with us. You got the writers. You've got Kiwi Refugee. I love him. Simon Peacock. That's a Kiwi Refugee is his Instagram name.
Okay.
but yeah, he was kind of the onset. I think he was the onset director as well, or line producer. I apologize, but he was so funny and he was such a great leader, and every person played their part to making sure we were all comfortable, confident, and they got the best performances out of us.
That's cool. Do you do any of the motion capture, or are you strictly voice acting?
Yeah, if you go to my Instagram, I just posted some video of me and Batgirl, America Young, and Stephen O. Young, who plays Red Hood, and Sloane Siegel, who plays Robin, Tim Drake. The four of us are actually in Montreal in performance capture outfits with motion capture face. And we're doing a little like kind of a cinematic scene during the Belfry as we're kind of walking through, talking about what's happening. And Red Hood's, he's angry as usual. And he's, and Nightwing's he's got this body bag to help train with him. And Red Hood is taken out of him, so much so that he almost gets hit in the face and he has to kind of catch his hand. He's like, hey, bud, maybe we're done for the day. So it's, I just threw it up on my Instagram if you want to check it out. And that was actually, we played that at San Diego Comic-Con, and the fans, they went nuts. It was so cool.
I can't wait to check it out.
So
oh my
cool.
gosh. It's crazy. It's awesome. Well, obviously, Podathon is all Star Wars content creators, podcasters, and YouTubers, and that's how we got started, as we talked about. And so whenever we have a Star Wars celebrity or personality on the show, we like to end the conversation with this question. For you, how does Star Wars inspire hope?
Hope is such a powerful word. It sparks revolutions. Without hope, people are desperate. People will do nothing, because they're taught to believe that nothing is possible. Nothing can be achieved. With hope, Joan of Arc can lead an entire nation. With hope, William Wallace can free all of Scotland. With hope, so much can happen. With hope in a Jedi and Luke Skywalker, you can take down an entire empire. So to me, hope is everything. As an actor, I hold on to every bit of hope when someone says, I like what you did there. Maybe one day you can be in DC. Maybe one day you'll probably be in the live action of Star Wars. Maybe one day we'll see you the lead of a Netflix movie, whatever it may be. With hope, that's what keeps me going, with the 99% no rejection, always being told that you're not right for the role. That 1%, that little bit of hope keeps me inspired, keeps the fire going. And so hope is everything to me.
That's awesome. Cool. Christopher, thank you so much for joining us today for Podathon. And we're very excited to have had you on here. And congratulations on your success. And we can't wait to see what happens in the future.
You guys are amazing. Big hugs. All love. Keep in touch.
Thanks so much. That was awesome.
Oh my gosh. He's such a cool dude.
He's so cool.
It's such a fun time.
It is. I'm curious, what was your favorite moment of the interview?
First of all, little honorable mention. When he started talking about the Court of Owls saga comic, that got me excited because that's my stuff. That's my jam. But he was talking about the wallpaper on his phone, who he thought was Terry McGinnis. Yeah. And then in his research for finding out the role of Dick Grayson, he was reading the Grayson comics, and he found that exact image and found out it was Dick Grayson.
Yeah, that was cool.
The entire time. He's had that wallpaper for years.
I love that.
And he just found out it was so cool.
That was cool. What about you, Samuel the Hutt?
I thought it was funny how he didn't know he was going to be at the Visions panel until a week before. And they're like, "You want to come?" He's like, "Thank you. I've been waiting to get in here." But I love his perspective on Visions. That's so cool. You know, that's like what makes Star Wars cool. Is like it can appeal to so many different like perspectives and mindsets with it. So it's cool to see how. I mean, we loved it because it was just awesome Star Wars, right? But he had a very different connection to it, which I thought was really cool. I liked that.
It was cool. I love just the story about like his love for Star Wars began with his dad trying to tell him Star Wars stories and stuff like that.
That was awesome.
I mean, obviously for me, that's what this has been. This show is all about. Was sharing my love for Star Wars with my sons, and so that connection was really cool. It was awesome. Christopher, if you're listening to this episode, obviously I'm going to send it to you. So I'm hoping you're listening to it. Thank you again for being a part of Podathon.
Yes.
I got a message from the producers and organizers of it shortly after it finished, and we got we hit our at the time it was like 16,100 at the time, and I was saying thank you for letting us be a part of it, and one of the producers replied back and said thank you guys for being there to open the show, and that segment helped propel things forward. We got some great gifts coming in and donations coming in during that time, and that created a lot of momentum throughout the day. And so thank you, Christopher, for being a part of that. It means a great deal to us. All right, anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
The closing scene in She-Hulk episode 5 teases the return of Daredevil. Let's go.
I'm so excited.
It's coming. It's going to happen this week.
Yes. Flash's new comic, The Flash Fastest Man Alive, I think is what it's called, canonizes Zack Snyder's Justice League in the DCU.
Whoa.
I wouldn't know. I haven't had time to get to the comic.
You haven't looked at
That's
that?
huge.
You haven't looked at the article I sent to you about it?
You didn't send an article
I thought I did. That's what I was trying to paste in the.
And you ended up pasting.
I pasted the wrong thing. Now that makes so much more sense.
Behind the scenes, right? He posted the link to the main show notes, which Nathan and I already have access to, and then he responds is like, "What's up?" And we're like, "Dad, you sent that." He's like, "Oh, yeah. I thought you sent that."
I was trying to send this article to you.
No,
you didn't look at it.
Thank you for not spoiling it because I'm still wanting to read this.
That's
the
huge,
comic.
Though,
so you didn't
right?
want, okay.
No,
it's really just a little moment.
But I have to get this and the new Daredevil issue.
Nate, that is really big though.
That is big,
right?
And that was also like slightly teased in the trailer for Shazam as well. The Zack Snyder's Justice League. I mean, you watch them. The scenes are from Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Because of the color.
And the colors. Because there's no red sky when Flash is running because they didn't want to deal with the CGI.
That's so funny. Star Wars The Acolyte adds 2 new cast members to its rosters. Former The Good Place star Manny Jacinto has been cast in this series from Leslie Headland, and then Charlie Barnett is in this from the Netflix series Russian Doll, which is what Leslie Headland was the writer for, director and producer or showrunner for. So something like that. So
awesome.
So that should be an interesting cast for it. I think we did it. We got through it. Thanks, guys. Congratulations for putting out another episode.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.
For listening to Tatooine Sons of Pop Culture podcast.
If you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah. And of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So if you liked it and you want more, be sure to like us on Facebook and join our Facebook discussion group. And you can follow us on Twitter too to get in on all the action. Also, keep up to date with everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast podcast app so you don't miss our next episode. Give us a review, please, on Apple Podcasts and ratings on Spotify or whatever podcast app you prefer. All right, I think that'll do it for this week. Anything else you guys would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Join, please. Yep, yep.